So yeah, this is another weekly reflection or another reflection. I spoke last time about like 3 books that have affected me during 2019 about how to live my life, which is about health and exercise and also sleep. And the book about sleep I hadn't really finished reading when I recorded last time, and I still haven't finished reading it yet, but more than halfway through it now. And it's just a super powerful book, so I will just do a special one about sleep because it's so worth reading that book and actually getting more information about that. And the book starts off kind of slow and a little bit like science-y in that sense. So, but in the longer you get into the book, the better it gets, and the more like comprehensive it gets, and the more like detailed it gets. Like, okay, this is what you can do. This is actually dangers of sleeping too little, and how should we actually sleep? How many hours is good, and stuff like that. And like after a while, the book gets kind of almost like hallelujah, like wow, okay, sleep is a solution to all kind of problems. And of course, whenever something like that happens, you become a little bit skeptical, like, is this really true? And I've searched online as well for like, okay, what are some things which might not be true and stuff like that. And there's certain things in the book which are like, okay, this is not really this is maybe not especially how it, or not exactly how it is portrayed in the book, but in a little bit different way, in one way or another. For example, the book almost always talks about this. You should get 8 hours of sleep, while a lot of research, for example, says like it's 7 to 9 hours, so 8 hours on average. But there's actually the span which the book doesn't really emphasize. The book emphasizes more those 8 hours, for example. So there's definitely things in the book which are not super perfect in that sense, but still, like, just based on what you get to know and what kind of just what the book tells you, it's like, wow, it's so worth reading because it gives you a lot of insights. And a lot of the things the book says aren't really like, it's not really strange, or it's not really like super new information. It more like confirms things you kind of had an idea about, or like general wisdom in that sense. But it confirms them, and it's also very good at actually telling you what kind of dangers there are with it. So, for example, it talks about, for example, memory benefits of sleeping. And when you sleep, you train your memory. So if you sleep well, you remember things a lot better. But then it tells you, for example, 2 things which are really interesting. So one of them is that if you can actually program, or like you can tell your brain what to remember, what not to remember, because the brain actually gets better at remembering things which it knows it needs to remember. So that's, for example, something you can do, that you can actually say, okay, wait, I want to remember this, and then you sleep, and then you will remember what you want to remember better. While if you don't want to remember things, or if you don't care about things, then that will not automatically be remembered better just by sleeping. So it's actually this kind of programmable in that sense. It's really interesting information from my perspective. And another thing, for example, is that if you like, one of the things which are better at remembering is, for example, what's called muscle memory. So like playing a piano, or playing sports, or something like that, which has to do with your body. And that, for example, is also, of course, enhanced a lot by sleeping. So if you practice on something and then sleep, you will be better at it after you've slept, even if you haven't practiced anymore. Like, you will become better at playing a piano. If you practice playing the piano, sleep, and then play the piano again, you will be better at it, for example. But that improvement actually happens during the last 2 hours of sleep. So it's not just getting sleep, it's actually getting a full night's of sleep, because during the last 2 hours that memory enhancement happens. So it doesn't happen during all of sleep, for example. So the book talks about a lot of things like these, like, okay, what does sleep actually do? And what the book also is very good is actually highlighting how important sleep is. Like, both that it's not a waste of time, definitely not. It's actually a time where our brain is super active, just that we are not conscious about it. So it's really good for solving problems, really good for creativity, it's really good for being healthy in general in all kinds of ways. But also, like, how dangerous lack of sleep is in our society. Like, the biggest cause of death are, for example, road accidents. A lot of them are related to sleep. If you haven't slept, it's as bad as drunk driving from a performance wise, for example. It's a lot of health or like health issues or welfare illnesses, for example, dementia, Alzheimer, often closely tied to sleep. Depression closely tied to sleep. So like all those kind of things which are like and it's not that he's quite clear saying it's not that sleep causes depression, but sleep and depression, they enhance each other. So if you have a depression and you sleep bad, it will get far worse, for example, and stuff like that. It's of course more complicated than what I just said, but it's really good in like telling you, wait, this is actually something we should really care about. And also, like, how should we sleep during life? When we're teenagers, we should sleep a different way than if we're older. If we're old, a lot of people might have memory issues. Are those memory issues because we're old, or is it because we actually sleep worse because we go to the bathroom more often when we get older? Stuff like that. Really interesting. So if you, for some reason, are interested in how to live a healthy life, you should read the book. If you have kids which will become teenagers, you should definitely read the book. And if you have parents which will grow older, you should also read the book. Or if you're a little bit older and getting older, you should also read the book. So yeah, a lot of reasons to read the book. Why Do We Sleep by Matthew Walker. I'll link to it in the description. Thanks for listening.